Wow, we have a lot of tomatoes here, and today we're going to give you an update on what we planted, when we planted them, and just actually start harvesting some of these tomatoes. We have 5 tomato plants that we planted just over 2 months ago as seedlings, and today we're going to harvest some of them, taste some of them. We've already been collecting them and eating them for the last several weeks. And if you'd like more information on how we got to this point, check out the links in the description below. One of the keys to the success in being able to grow tomatoes all year long is our Procyon 2.0 light. We use a 17-inch Procyon light above each of the tomato plants, and it's a light which gives you the right intensity of light that's required to grow a tomato, as well as the right ratio of red to blue to green light to make the flowers properly blossom and to produce large amounts of tomatoes. One of the other advantages in using our Happy Leaf lights to grow your tomatoes at home is they use very little energy. They're using about 30 watts of energy, so if they're on for 16 hours a day, it's less than a nickel per day to run the lights. All the other costs are some seeds, some nutrients, which are also very inexpensive, and you can actually grow your own tomatoes that are pesticide-free, indoors, in your basement, in a closet, anywhere you want, and we are showing you how to do that. This is the first tomato plant that we're going to harvest and take a look at. It's called Red Robin from Totally Tomatoes. We've been harvesting tomatoes off of it for the last 2 weeks or so. Today there's 3 or 4 tomatoes that I'm going to harvest, but you can also see that we've got quite a few green tomatoes still in here. So over the next week or so, we're going to start getting a really significant harvest. This has become one of our favorites because it has phenomenal taste. The tomatoes themselves are about 1 inch in diameter, as you can see. And they are really incredible. In fact, some of these have been lasting for over a year, and we're getting tremendous results from them. The next tomato that we're going to talk about is called Totem. This has also become one of our favorites, and it's also from Totally Tomatoes. And we've been harvesting off this plant for over 2 weeks. I've already harvested 20 or so large, very good tomatoes off this plant. They're roughly 2 inches in diameter, and I'm going to pick a few here right now. And let's see, I think I've got 4 tomatoes on here today. And as you can see, they're relatively large compared to some of the others that we've been harvesting here. They also taste great. So we've selected these for how well they produce, how long they last, as well as how they taste. So another great tasting tomato. Not quite as sweet as the Red Robin and the Sweet and Neat, but still an excellent tomato for use all year long. The next plant we're going to look at is one called Tiny Tim. This particular one is from a seed company called RDR Seeds, and it also has become one of our favorites. It's a smaller plant, produces excellent tomatoes. They're small. They're probably only 3/4 of an inch in diameter. So again, we've been harvesting for the last several weeks. And again, these plants were all planted about just over 2 months ago. And I have a batch of red ones back here that I'm going to grab. And let's see how many total that we actually were able to pick today. Oh, I think that's it. So you can see I have a small handful of tomatoes as well that will probably go into a cucumber tomato salad later today. And we're growing our own cucumbers just around the corner here as well. The next plant we're going to talk about is also called Tiny Tim. And you could see that they actually look quite different. This particular Tiny Tim seed came from Totally Tomatoes as well. And I'm going to pick a few tomatoes off this one. They produce tomatoes that look very similar. They're both about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. And you could see just a few tomatoes off that plant. But there's quite a few green tomatoes as well as flowers on this plant. So I'm getting a small bowl here, getting ready for salad this afternoon. Our fifth tomato plant that we're going to take a look at is one called Sweet and Neat, and also from Totally Tomatoes. And it is called Sweet and Neat because the tomatoes are truly very sweet. So we've been harvesting again for several weeks off this one. I'm going to pick a few today. The tomatoes themselves are relatively small. I'd say somewhere between 3/4 of an inch in diameter to maybe up to an inch. And I'm going to pick a small handful of them here. And you can see there's still a lot of green tomatoes on here. So over the next few weeks, we're actually going to be harvesting quite a bit. I would say these 5 plants, in the next few weeks, I've actually picked something like 1/4 pound of tomatoes per day from these types of plants in the past. So you could see we've got a bowl of tomatoes here that will be used later today. The 5 tomato plants that we've talked about today are ones that we planted just over 2 months ago. But if you look behind me here, there are 2 plants that we planted in mid-December of 2020. And these are over a year old. And as you can see, they're still producing incredibly well. The 2 varieties that are still doing well are Red Robin and Sweet and Neat. So they're 2 of the varieties that we just talked about this morning. And the other thing I wanted to point out is actually we have a cucumber plant right behind me here that I just harvested my cucumber from. And we're going to do the same thing that we've just done with tomatoes on a variety of different cucumbers and give you information on which ones will produce the best for your indoor garden.